Welcome to Lesson 3 in our three-part series on documenting your family history. I'm Harriet Weber, Director of Operations at the Quincy Valley Historical Society and Museum, and we're glad you tuned in. If you've watched the first two, you've seen Sue Simmons-Caballos tell us about how to gather all of the factual information of your family. So then what? What do you do with all this factual information other than pass it down to your children and grandchildren? Well, the fun thing then can begin. You can actually do something with all of this information to make it come alive for your family. You can do a variety of things. Write a story, make a scrapbook, make a video about it. You can use one of the books that are available. This is a family tree record book. There's also even a new program out that I've seen online where it sends questions to your mother or your grandmother or grandfather, father, or siblings. You can send it, it sends it monthly, and then you can answer the questions about what life was like for them. So you can interview them. You can write down your memories. You can collect photographs and put them into an album or digitize all of them. So you're only limited by your imagination, but the object is to make your family puzzle be a beautiful picture and come alive that you can pass down, and it will be a testament to your family. It will give your family meaning, because every family has meaning. So please listen as Sue gives you one idea, and then Chris Allen is also going to give us another example of a great idea to document family photographs. Thanks for tuning in tonight.
This begins our third lesson on family history. Now that you've collected the information on your family and you have added stories and photos, it is time to put them all together. One way to do this is by putting together a scrapbook to go along with the data binder. The example we have here has been loaned to us by Jackie Overnow. Several years ago, her daughter-in-law put together this album, and it is amazing. The scrapbook begins with the history of her family, again, including photos and locations. It includes documents that have been gathered by your family over the years. This personalizes the album. It shows where they lived over the years and things that they had done. Again, it helps to have this information in chronological order. This is the ancestral line of Jacqueline Harrison. It's Jackie Overnow, and it talks about her entire family tree. In the beginning, it talks about the Harrison family in the 1700s and how they came across the country. In it, it has photos of her ancestors and stories of the battles that were fought. This would have been in the Civil War. This is the Gettysburg Address, and this is one of the things that Jackie has totally memorized. There are little pouches that go along with it that are from the family. It goes on to show her grandparents, newspaper articles of where they were, and this is from the Omaha Bee. This is in 1902, and it shows the whole family, and it's the Harrison family. There are newspaper articles. It tells about the town, and again, family photos, each time adding to the years. It goes on and tells about the acting career of, I believe it's her grandmother, and gives more documentation. It's embellished with all kinds of scrapbooking decorations too. This is the cradle roll certificate for, let's see, Ross Denver Harrison. So as we go along, it goes along and it tells about the vaudeville days, and her grandpa and grandma were in vaudeville. It goes then when the family moved to Missoula, Montana, and all of their history in that. It gives all kinds of little pictures and details. As you can see, the photo album just keeps going on and on in amazing fashion. It goes on to where they made other moves, and I believe this is to California, and they were there for some time. It shows the Red Cloud riverboat that they were on, older pictures of her grandparents, and we go on to Fort Benton, and this is in 1885. We've got more pictures. This is the Glasscock part of the family. So you always have more than one set of grandparents, so you can separate them up into following that. Interesting little maps, and this is Chesapeake Bay. Young pictures, and they're usually photographed in a professional studio. Census forms, that's always important. Again, childhood days, when the Glasscock grandmother was growing up, into her early days. And then Ross, this shows that Ross and Mary were camping with Bill and Lois Schultz. So it has interactions between other families too. This goes on into the 1920s and the Great Depression. And this map actually shows where they were in Montana and then moved into California and then moved back again. Many families were moving during the Great Depression. Again, this is Mary and Ross Harrison, and all kinds of little decorations with it. Now, these are the nice pictures because these are big ones that you can actually see the couple in. We have newspaper articles. We have interesting things because he worked for the Snap-on Tool Corporation. And it's going to slip again. It's getting heavy on that side. So this is kind of the way a scrapbook can be put together. This is something that Jackie would gladly show off to you, and because she is very proud of it.
So as you've seen in Lesson 3, Sue showed you one way to document family story, and that was the beautiful book that was made for Roxanne Kreinmeyer. Now, some people are not quite so artistically talented that way, visually that way, but there are other ways. And so in just a few minutes, you're going to hear from a man named Chris Allen. He's a master carpenter. He's one of our main volunteers here. He got the idea to do some documenting of family photographs. And it turned into a family project where they would take the photographs that their mother had taken over all the years of them growing up. And after she passed, they started looking at these photographs and sharing the collective memories that they had about each photograph. Sometimes they didn't even know what the photograph was for or why it was taken, but it was the objects in the photograph that sparked different memories from the siblings and from his father. And then they took these memories that they were generating and he turned them into a Word document, a story, a written story with a title based around this particular photograph. And you could do this for thousands of photographs if you had the time. But what a wonderful way to be able to, especially when people live far apart, to get your siblings or your parents together and look at the photographs you have and to be able to tell the stories behind them. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, why would anybody even be interested in my family's story or what we did? It's really of no consequence. But I will give you two examples of something that is pretty consequential. Number 1 was a young teenage man by the name of Joseph Plum Martin, and he was a Revolutionary War foot soldier. He kept a diary during the Revolutionary War. Just what happened today, what happened yesterday, what happened tomorrow. And he just started writing down this diary. Well, now, all these hundreds of years later, we study the diary of Joseph Plum Martin as a snapshot into what life was like during the Revolutionary War, especially for a foot soldier. It has become a rare and very, very sought after primary source. It's called a real life snapshot. Priceless. Another one is Little House on the Prairie. We all know those stories. And those were her way of telling what their family life was like and how they moved around and all the things that happened to them, turned them into beautiful children's books. And they are also a snapshot. Nothing was pretty major or historic in any of those books. It was life as they lived it. And so for your family to pass down to your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, who knows, in several hundred years, people may read what you documented and what your story is and be able to understand what life was like in the time that you lived. It's pretty important, and I encourage you to find a way for your family. So I'm joining Chris Allen right now because he's going to explain how his family did this. And you'll see the photograph up on the screen that they used. Just one example of the thousands of photographs he has. Thanks. So I'm sitting here with Chris Allen, and this is another really interesting way to help document your family story. And what Chris has done is a really unique method of garnering collective memories with his siblings and his dad. And so I'm going to have him show us a photograph that they used and tell us about the process that they worked on to be able to generate these wonderful family memories and to document them. So thanks for being here, Chris. Really appreciate this. I know this isn't your thing, but we really appreciate this. When I heard this was such a novel idea and an easy idea that families could do and could use to help document their story. So tell us a little bit about how you came up with this idea, how you started.
My mother passed away about 4 or 5 years ago. In her lifetime, actually in my lifetime, started about the year before I was born, she started taking pictures and took them up to when she passed away. So she had about several thousand pictures, somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000, about 10,000 files on her computer. My sister scanned all those albums into a hard drive and made copies and sent to all the siblings. I have a brother and 2 sisters, and my dad is still living. So we all have copies of all of Mom's pictures. And so I was looking through them, and I got so with the pandemic, I didn't have much to do, so I was just looking through them. And I started realizing that each picture was of a topic, sometimes not a very significant one. But in each picture were things that meant something to our family. My dad, some of them, my sisters, or my brother. So I picked up one that I thought, well, this has got several little things in the background that are not part of the topic of the picture. And this is the picture. I don't know if you can see it. I think you can. It's a picture of me when I was about 19. I must have been, because it says it was November of '67. And my brother and my sister. My brother and sister are leaning on one truck. I'm sitting in the bed of another truck. There's a story around everything in that picture almost, except for I don't know why Mom took the picture. Just me sitting there, my brother and sister talking. In the picture, I'm sitting in a green pickup with a yellow bed. There's a big long story about that means something to our family. I won't go into the detail of that, but just to say there's a story there. My brother and sister are leaning against the pickup that's sanded. That happens to be the first pickup that I did a total paint job on, and I've done about 20 since then. So that was a significant thing to me. In the background, there's a white structure sitting on a frame. That is an old sugar beet bed. There's a story about how we got it, and further story about what we did with it. And we all have memories of that. Underneath that you can barely see, is a red top of a boat. That was a wooden boat that my grandfather gave us in California. And if we go through the mom's albums, there's about 6 or 7 other pictures of that boat being used by our family and others. And so, as I started looking at those, I decided I'll just email my brother and sister about something in that picture. I don't remember what it was I emailed them about. And they got it, and got the email, and shared it with my dad, and we all did what you do around the family table with pictures. You start talking, and everybody's got a different memory. Well, after I did that, I realized, we should document these in a way that can be expanded, preserved, titled. So I backed out of the email thing and went to a Word document and started just writing about those specific things that he was talking about there. And I have little stories that I put together. It's interesting that I sent them out to my siblings and my dad, and each of us have different memories from those memories. So we have further documents that we developed based on just on the memories that were generated from that silly picture.
Well, and what a great way to do it. That's why I was so fascinated with this method, because instead of just asking somebody, oh, well, what do you remember from this picture, to bring up certain things and to point out certain objects in the picture, then start stirring up our collective memories. And then we can come up with stories that pertain to that photograph. And that's a wonderful way to help document what your family did and the stories of families. And so,
it sure has worked well for us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing, Chris. Really appreciate it.
Well, that's helpful to somebody.
So thanks so much for tuning in to this series on documenting your family history. Remember, we likened it to a puzzle that had a lot of different parts and pieces missing. And the idea is to try to put this all together into a beautiful picture that you can share with your family. So thanks for tuning in, and we hope it inspires you to do something for your own family. Thanks and good night.